And we were not profitable in 2014 because Russia-Crimea thing, it's like the whole thing that's going on right now. It started back then with the Russian ruble losing its value. So first of all, we're losing money because we didn't convert rubles right away. And also people start declining their trips and not booking new trips because of what's going on with the currency. And this is when our business went from really profitable to like barely surviving. And everyone kept telling us it was probably time to shut everything down.
It starts with just taking that leap.
Man, you have to work hard. You have to be incredibly smart.
Choose something that even if it fails, you are going to be proud of it.
Doesn't matter how badly you've gone beaten in battle.
Be kind, be kind, be kind.
Become a better person, a better leader, the better business.
Go with your gut.
I'm Samuel Donner, and this is Finding Founders. We'll get back to the podcast right after this break. Another Bite, hosted by John Dick, Jory Monroe, Leslie Green, and Ariel Boswell, is brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. Each week, they break down an episode of everyone's favorite business television show, Shark Tank, offering their own unique thoughts, spin-off companies, critiques, and even talk with some folks who pitched the sharks themselves and live to tell the tale. From squatty potties to mensch on a bench, and even that weird golf club that you'd be into, like that's a serious invention. I was just watching the video earlier. It's crazy. Another Bite takes a fresh look at some of your favorite episodes and even more importantly, answers what these entrepreneurs are up to now. So if that sounds interesting to you, listen to Another Bite wherever you get your podcasts. And now, back to the podcast. In the span of a few weeks, Marina's thriving study abroad program seemed to collapse alongside the Russian ruble. With the travel market disappearing overnight amidst the country's political conflict, it seemed like this might be the end of LinguaTrip. But don't tune out just yet. While this setback might have stopped another influencer businesswoman, Marina Mogilko is now a prominent entrepreneur and content creator with more than 9 million subscribers across her 3 YouTube channels. As founder of one of the first Russian-owned startups in Silicon Valley, Marina's videos provide a unique perspective on business, investment opportunities, and her immigrant journey. But before she found success at home and abroad, Marina was just a kid who loved linguistics. Growing up in the isolation of post-Soviet Russia, she knew that learning English was her key to a better future. Tell me about growing up in Russia and what that was like.
So I grew up in Russia, St. Petersburg, and spent the first 25 years of my life there. I think from like when I was 4 years old, my granddad told me I have to learn English in order to be successful in my life. So this has been with me all my life. Like I started learning English when I was 4.
I guess I want to know why your grandfather felt like you needed to study English. Like why was that so important to your family and him? And like what did he think that would allow you to do?
I think like when I was born, Soviet Union just collapsed, like literally like several weeks before I was born. And before that, everything was happening abroad. Like Russia was isolated from the rest of the world. My parents would line up for hours to get milk, to get like basic produce. There wasn't anything in stores. Stores were empty. And so, yeah, we had like people who were in the Soviet Union, they had access to information about what's going on in the West. And they saw, stores full of food, full of clothes, people living their lives, traveling. And I think my family was just inspired by all of that. And they were like, Marina, if you're learning English, this would be your chance to live a great life and experience life abroad.
Why couldn't your family leave?
Oh, you can't. You couldn't. It's impossible. But before the 90s, you couldn't really leave because the borders were closed.
Couldn't even get a passport?
No. It's like, it's not allowed. You could travel within the Soviet Union, but you could only travel abroad if you were some kind of a sport person or a diplomat. And then when the 90s started, when the borders opened up, but I would say 90% of people lived in poverty, they were really poor. And my parents lived in St. Petersburg, and my grandparents would come to them bringing potatoes. Like, would you imagine traveling 48 hours on a train just to bring potatoes to your family? Like, this is how poor almost everyone was in Russia back then. So there was like no way they could go abroad. They wouldn't be able to afford it.
As you were growing up, did you realize that you were like poor, didn't have the opportunities that maybe like the West had? Like, was that obvious to you?
It wasn't like I felt poor or anything. I felt that we have our lives and there is another world, which is not where we live. And I was kind of okay with it. But then like in the early 2000s, when the new modern Russia started developing, we started having a lot of oligarchs. And this is when you kind of felt poor because you saw people driving Mercedeses and, having these huge apartments, owning buildings. But it was like only like maybe 2 or 3%, maybe even less percent of population. But before that, you're like, as a kid, you don't really like understand. You just live your life. You're happy. I remember my mom also told me like we would have 1 apple per week. That was my dessert. And I was like, cool, apple today. And then we had yogurts, which was amazing. I remember like when Russia started importing goods from the West, and that was kind of cool.
Yeah. So when you were, English was really important. And it seems like you actually did pretty well, because how did you actually get like awarded for like the talented youth in the Russian Federation? And how does that even work?
I think they award this to everyone who took part in nationwide competitions, and like a way to take part in this nationwide competition, you have to win in your school, then you win in your district, then you win in your city. And then if you win in your city, they send you to this Pan-Russia Olympiad. So I went to Pan-Russia Olympiad in English, which was pretty cool because I was so passionate about it. And then everyone who was there, and I was also a straight A student, and then they awarded me, and it was like 30,000 rubles back then, which was like I think it was around like $700, which was my first big money that I made. And I was so proud of myself.
When does it start to like escalate to maybe opening you up to visiting other countries?
In my first like proper trip, I mean, proper, like flying abroad. This is what I mean, not like going by car. Flying abroad was when I won that scholarship to go to the UK when we were doing this exchange program. So I could go there for free, stay with local family, go to Marlborough College for 2 weeks, and just attend classes with everyone. And this is when I realized that the language that I was learning doesn't really sound like what people are speaking in the UK. I couldn't really understand people. And that motivated me so hard to actually double down on learning. Oh, I actually went with a group of other kids from my school who were selected as a part of. No, I was excited. For me, it was like, oh my God, I am going to an English speaking country. I've been learning English for 10 years. And now I get a chance to finally experience the real English speaking environment.
Yeah, it's super exciting. So coming back from that trip, did you have like a travel bug? Were you like, I want to do this more? I want to practice my English more?
Oh yeah, I cried. I think I cried for days. I really wanted to go back so bad, but I knew that, I had my school in Russia. And so I actually went on that study abroad trip 3 times, and you're only allowed to be part of it like once. Back then we had this program at school, and they selected like annually, they would select 10 students, send them abroad. So I just did everything to be selected, and they selected me 3 times.
So how old are you at this point after your 3rd trip?
17.
17. So looking towards like university, what are you thinking you want to study, and what are you like, how has this trip informed the direction that you want to take your life in?
Yeah, I actually always wanted to just study languages, but my parents were like, what do you want to do? Become a language teacher? No way. And so I could actually, I could get admissions into like a top university in Russia if I studied linguistics with 0 exams because of all of those competitions I took part in. But my parents were like, no, maths, economics, this is what you're doing. So yeah, I think it's a great choice.
Why do you think they suggested that? Like, why was a language teacher not good? Or like what do you think they...
Oh, because of the salaries. Like if you just look at the average salary of an English language teacher, and again, now there are so many opportunities. You can start your own blog. And this is basically what I do. I still talk about English on my YouTube channel. But back then, your best opportunity was probably teaching at a good school. But if you studied mathematics and economics, you could work at a bank, you could work as a financial manager at a company. Yeah, because of all the opportunities, I guess.
Yeah. And they wanted to all make sure like you were financially set up, I'm sure too.
Yeah.
What did you think of of studying that or studying economics?
It was crazy. It was mostly maths in the first 2 years, and I came from a linguistic school, so it was really hard for me. But I think it's super exciting getting an opportunity to study something that complicated. And I remember like feeling really bad about every single class basically, but then it got better. Bad
in what way? Like you weren't good about it?
I didn't understand anything. We had a maths teacher who just wanted to overcomplicate everything. So not a single word, the most complicated symbols in this Latin alphabet you can think of. And that was just all so confusing.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. Like, did you think about not completing or like dropping out ever? Or was that even in the cards?
No, not an option.
Why not?
Because, well, my parents, first of all, they invested so much in that because I had a lot of tutors and I just couldn't, I couldn't do that to them. And also I realized I'm in a good place and I just need a little bit more effort. And then, I also realized 90% of the students were in the same situation as me. So I felt okay.
Yeah. So you're all struggling together. So I guess next I want to kind of lead up to when you started exploring YouTube.
Oh, it actually all happened in 2014 when I've always had this dream of studying abroad, but my parents could not afford paying for my master's. And then I realized that there are actually full ride scholarships in the US. And I started preparing for my GMAT and TOEFL. And I was watching YouTube videos by other people. And this is how I discovered the platform in 2014. And I was like, oh my God, there are also like local YouTube specific superstars. It's this whole different planet with different things going on there. So I decided to, just focus my attention there. And I was super inspired by several creators, like local creators in Russia. And when I took my GMAT, I recorded my first video. And that was also in December 2014.
What was the first video?
How to take GMAT, how to score 700 out of 800 on GMAT.
Was that first video produced in an effort to like have the same success as these local creators that you saw?
And I think there were two motivations. First, I really wanted to connect with people who were also going through the same process because all my friends, like none of my friends were seeking admissions in the US. And it felt really lonely. So I thought, what if I create a video? Maybe I find someone in the comment section who's going through the same process. And thought number two, when I was preparing for my GMAT, most of the content that I consumed was in English, mostly by companies who specialize in teaching people how to take tests. And I really needed content from someone who just took GMAT, and ideally someone whose first language is not English because it's a different thing, right? And I was like, let me create this for other fellow Russian students. And of course, I was inspired by other creators. I kind of borrowed their style, which was just holding a camera in front of yourself. That's like, there wasn't any style really, but well, it's an approach that you can take on YouTube.
Did you find anyone?
Yes, so first of all, I found like a group of people who was doing the same thing. And second, a couple of them became my first students because they wanted me to train them to take GMAT.
Wait, how did that happen?
They actually reached out to me on like a Russian Facebook. There is VKontakte, which is a Russian type of Facebook. They reached out to me and said, we saw your video because it's the same name there and on YouTube. And they asked me whether I teach people how to take GMAT. And I was like, oh, well, I've never taught, but I could definitely explain things to you. And this was actually my first money I made off YouTube. I charged them like $10 an hour.
What was it like teaching people?
I loved it. I loved the tutoring process, but most of all, I loved creating videos for, because when you tutor someone, it's one-on-one, but you actually say the same things you could have said in a video. And I wanted everything to be more scalable. So another video that I made was about another test. And then, I just focused on creating videos on YouTube versus just doing one-on-ones. But I still did one-on-ones till I think 2017.
How do your videos change from the first one?
I think my second video was about TOEFL, another test that you take as an international student. And the third video was about personal statements. And the fourth video was probably with the first acceptance letter with a Fulbright scholarship, because it happened like within the 2 months. And yeah, so all of my videos were just recording myself talking about the subject. But then also 3 months later, after I started my channel, our company got accepted to 500 startups in Silicon Valley. And this is when we actually moved to the US to run a company. Like it's 2 different lives. So my husband and I, we were just dating back then. We started a company in 2011 to help Russian students study abroad. And in 2013, we realized that we want to scale it outside Russia. And we started coding a platform. Like we hired a developer who later became our CTO. We started coding that platform. And then we started applying to different accelerators across the world, Y Combinator, Techstars 500.
What was the development of that company?
We started 2011, was really slow start. 2012, we were kind of growing. 2013, super profitable. Like I made my first 1 million rubles, which is $15,000, something like that. For me, huge money. I gave everything to my parents. This is my thing. So
like you were having all this success with the business, right? So you were profitable. You were taking people to like all these places around the world to study abroad.
I forgot to mention we were not profitable in 2014 because Russia Crimea thing, and like it's like the whole thing that's going on right now. It started back then. With the Russian ruble losing its value, first sanctions, people stopped, like a lot of people stopped traveling abroad. And this is when our business went from really profitable to like barely surviving.
Actually, can you tell me about that time in like more detail?
Yeah, I think it was just like checking, because what we did, we collected fees in Russian rubles. And then in like a couple of weeks, we would send them, like we would convert them into British pounds and send them to schools, because most of our schools were in the UK. And then, so you collect money when British pound is 50 rubles per pound. And then in 2 days, it's already 68 rubles per pound. And then in 4 days, it's 100 rubles per pound. So first of all, we're losing money because we didn't convert rubles right away. And also people start declining their trips and not booking new trips because of what's going on with the currency.
We'll get back to the podcast right after this break. Are you sick and tired of wasting all your time on tedious tasks like writing reports, writing blog posts, trying to personalize countless prospecting emails? You know, like when you like change that first sentence and it's just like, oh, this is a new email. Well, guess what? You don't have to do any of that anymore because these new AI tools are going to blow your mind. I don't know if you've been playing around with ChatGPT. Insane. People think they're coming for your jobs, but I think they're going to make your job a lot easier. And that's why HubSpot is introducing their newest AI tool, Content Assistant and ChatSpot. Content Assistant uses the power of OpenAI's GPT-3 model to help you create content outlines, outreach emails, and even web page copy in seconds. And in case that wasn't enough, they created ChatSpot, a conversational growth assistant that connects to your HubSpot CRM for unbeatable support. Head to HubSpot.com/artificial-intelligence to get early access today. And now, back to the podcast. Were you nervous like during this time?
Nah, not really. I was like, because I was so passionate about it. And I also knew that there is a plan B where I can go abroad, do my MBA somewhere. Because at that time, I already knew about all the scholarship opportunities. And I was like, we'll just give that thing a shot. Maybe I get accepted to an MBA program.
How does the accelerator go too?
It was great. It was amazing. It was we still like think with my husband, when I think about life-changing events in our lives, definitely having kids and being at 500 startups, because the whole life just changed in a day.
How?
Moving from, Russia to Silicon Valley, being one of the first Russian startups in Silicon Valley and starting to get all the press and like meeting all of the amazing people that I didn't have access to in Russia, meeting amazing founders, going to all the talks, like going to LA for the first time, going to Las Vegas, doing a vlog, like everything changed just in a day, really.
What was like the biggest thing for your company, like as you were getting all of that influx of attention and money and opportunity?
Just getting this credibility, because the average check is $2,000. And like when people just see a platform like an online website that asks you for $2,000, there's not too much trust if it's a new website. But with all the press and all the attention that we were getting, it definitely helped us with the trust thing.
Let's go to 2018 when like you noticed things just like starting to pick up for your channel. Like what were the first things that you noticed?
I think I reached 100,000 subscribers on my Russian channel in 2017. I think it was summer 2017. I started my second channel in 2016. So when my Russian channel was 1 year old, I wanted to create the same content, but in English. So I started Lingua Marina. That channel took off pretty quickly because, again, I was talking about GMAT and TOEFL, and there was so much demand for it, and there is still so much demand for it. And then I realized that my American friends were not consuming my content because I was mostly talking either in Russian or about learning English. And I started a channel called Silicon Valley Girl to cater for my American audience, to talk about business and life in Silicon Valley. And now it's more like a lifestyle/business channel.
Why did you feel like you had to split up those channels?
Well, first of all, you can't really mix two languages on one channel. It's very confusing for the audience, for the algorithm. And the second thing, I actually saw how videos about getting investment and like fundraising for a company, they just tanked on my Lingua Marina channel. And so I thought, it's time to create a different channel and stop confusing the audience who came to learn English. And I'm like talking to them about raising money and going through accelerators.
How are you even building out the systems to support all of these different channels?
Well, in terms of systems, I hired an editor. This was a game changer for everything because it just saved 6 hours per video because he was editing everything. And then I created a schedule for myself, 3 long videos a week. So 1 on each channel. And I just try to stick to it.
A big jump for a lot of YouTubers is hiring that first editor or hiring that first help.
I announced every job that I had on my channel so I could hire for my subscribers. And most of them back then were in Eastern Europe. So I hired in Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Belarus. And the average salary is $10 to $15 an hour, which is really good compared to the average prices in California, for example.
So it seems like you got into a flow with the editor. How do you keep building up your processes so you can expand? I
have 3 editors because, they go on vacations. They want some time off. I have a YouTube manager. This was a game changer for me. I hired my first one in 2019, which is basically, I call them YouTube managers, but they're like my assistants who help me post, do my research, analyze what's going on in the channel, suggest topics. And I have 2 YouTube managers now, so I don't really do anything except for filming. They would do like all the posting. I have 2 thumbnail designers. So my YouTube manager would actually work with a thumbnail designer. They would suggest titles to me. They would do all the descriptions, time codes. And again, as I mentioned, research. I have a person who is responsible for sales. She would interact with companies and do the brand deals. And I have a personal assistant who helps me with just, emails or PR opportunities.
How did you start the YouTube school?
I just wanted to create my own course. I actually started with a webinar that I sold, like a 2-hour thing when I would just go and talk about YouTube. And I saw how much demand was there. And I saw how people were asking me super basic questions like how you actually create a channel, or what do you select as your channel art? Do you need to have a schedule? So I decided to record a course. It was super basic. That took me like a couple of days to record. It was 9 classes, very, very basic course. And now the course that we launched last month has 100 classes with lectures from vidIQ, GetResponse, all the like great educational companies, YouTube companies. It just evolved so much, but we also have simpler products like a course on how to start with short videos. But I just love the in-depth learning like of the product, so you can find anything that you want. So you can, learn how to build a funnel out of a YouTube channel. So you can learn how to read your analytics with vidIQ. And I just love working with those companies.
When you were starting this YouTube school initially, like, what was the impact that you were seeing directly?
We have a lot of students with silver and golden buttons. And I think when we're learning, we want to learn from someone relatable. And when I was learning about YouTube, there were amazing creators that I watch, but they're mostly male, American. It was cool, but it wasn't relatable. And I feel like I have a lot of female YouTubers. I have a lot of immigrant YouTubers. I think this is my audience. And people who want to tap into an English speaking market, maybe having an accent, maybe having fears that you're not like Mr. Beast, because Mr. Beast is the largest creator out there. But there are also so many other creators that people watch. So my course is for those who see themselves in me.
So can you track me up to maybe like 2019, how all of your different projects are developing? Where are your multiple channels? Where's the YouTube course? And where's LinguaTrip?
Yeah, 2019, we just launched my first YouTube course. I got pregnant with our first kid. There she is. And I realized this is the time when I have to delegate as much as possible. So I stepped down from my role of like COO at LinguaTrip. So my husband took over most of my things and hired people to substitute me so I can focus on the baby. I still have 3 channels. I didn't miss an upload when I was in the hospital. I made the videos beforehand. So I was still producing videos in full mode. What else? Yeah, everything was I think 2019 was great.
Did you feel like that priority shift was like difficult to actually make happen?
No, it was so organic because I now understand that I hate running companies. I don't like Zoom calls. I don't like when they are obligatory, mandatory every Monday, heads of all departments. Oh my God. Like, I don't want that. I want to wake up to a completely free schedule, because when I see that there is nothing planned, I start making videos. I start talking to people. I become creative. And when I see that my schedule is like a call every hour, I just get depressed. I don't know. And this is what I started to realize when we were at a stage when we had 80 people, and like, I was bombarded with emails and call requests every day, and like every problem would backfire on me. And, like it was tiring. And so I thought, I'm going to focus on what I love, creating content, thinking about the products, and we can always hire somebody to replace me in like operational stuff.
So when you had that like more space for creativity, and I feel like that, I guess, paired with the pandemic hitting, I think what I've noticed is a lot of creators, that was a time actually to create more. It's like you have all this space on your calendar. Everything is stopping. And so like, what do? I guess like you sit in a room and make a video.
Well, don't forget that I have a 3-month-old baby when it all starts. Yeah. So it's not like I have all the time in the world. I was actually recording another course, I remember, that time. But also, creating content. So first of all, we lost 95% of our revenue. So we were like focusing on who we should fire and who stays in the company. How do we pivot to the online product? So it was one part of it. Another part of it is, me thinking of other income streams and thinking about which products I can launch apart from just travel and language learning, because it was something I was really focused on. And just being busy with a kid.
Yeah. And then also like during this time, this is when you launch your TikTok, right?
Well, I wouldn't say launch. I just asked my team to repurpose videos for TikTok. I never even checked the comments.
Was it doing anything then or not really?
It was. Yeah, it was. Like it hit 2 million followers by the end of 2020, I think. Which was kind of cool.
That's huge. Why weren't you like checking it at all if you were getting that much traction, or was it not interesting?
Because I don't understand TikTok till now. Like, so what? You get 30 million views. What? You get mentioned on BuzzFeed, you get an article on Mashable, and that's it. Like, really, because you cannot guarantee that every single video is going to get that amount of views. Like, TikTok algorithm doesn't really care about your subscribers. So the point of me having 2.7 million subscribers is me being able to say, hey, I have 2.7 million subscribers, which doesn't translate into revenue. I get paid maybe $2 a day on TikTok, which doesn't translate into product purchases because you're penalized by the algorithm if you mention a product. Like, who cares about my TikTok? No one cares about my TikTok. This is just what I feel like. And it's like, I'm hoping they're going to fix it. But for now, I think it's our shot at becoming super famous. But if you're not Charlie D'Amelio, or if you're not Kaby Lame or Edison Ray, you're just not getting the deals that would make it sustainable for you.
Yeah. I think that's something that a lot of creators are hoping that TikTok will fix. And did you see that they're planning on splitting 50% of revenue or something on some videos?
Hopefully. Because $2 a day is like laughing in my face.
I know, it's ridiculous, especially with YouTube actually paying creators a good living. So you weren't really focusing on TikTok too much, but you were getting massive success. But what was happening with your channels during COVID?
They were stably growing. I wouldn't say, because I wasn't hyping on COVID topic. I was just talking about learning English and business and just what we're going through, and, vlogging my new life with a baby. I think that's why I wasn't paying too much attention to COVID. So
it seems like you got a little bit of a reset when COVID started loosening up a bit. What did you decide to focus on then? And I guess also, how did your channels grow to where they are today?
So I got pregnant in 2020 again. So for me, when people talk about COVID, COVID affected our company, but in my life, I was going through a completely new transformation, becoming a mom and then becoming a mom again. So I didn't really pay too much attention to COVID. Again, we traveled a lot. We went on a big trip with our friend, visiting Guatemala and Mexico. And, that was kind of cool. I still kept creating my content. It's like having a schedule every week. And I think just that consistency, and doubling down on videos that performed well. At the end of 2020, I think I started taking short videos more seriously, but I was still okay, let's repurpose, but let's also repurpose on YouTube. That was me taking them seriously. But in 2021, I started taking them too seriously, which means I started creating short specific content. And this is where, I started getting this massive traction on Silicon Valley Girl with my lifestyle videos.
So where is everything today with with everything that you're working on?
I think I'm focusing on shorts even more. One of the shorts got 4 million views in the past 7 days, brought me 20,000 new subscribers.
Wow.
I'm so proud of my relationship with YouTube. I was hosting EduCon for educational creators in September in New York, and they flew in over 100 amazing educational creators like Mark Rober or English with Lucy. And they flew them in to have this day of learning about new things that YouTube is doing for education. I was at their creator summit a month ago, I think, in Palm Springs, or no, it was 2 weeks ago, where again, they had all the top creators, Marquez and Call Me Chris, all of the new creators who do shorts. And then this Saturday, they actually appointed me their shorts ambassador in the Bay Area. So I hosted the very first Bay Area shorts creator meetup in my home. And now we're working on another exciting project with YouTube. So I'm very proud that I'm able to work with a company and also meet the executives and maybe talk about my problems and my accomplishments with the platform. So I'm super excited they pay so much attention to the creator community. And I'm thinking of slowing down a little bit with long videos because I really want to focus on the short content.
Why do you think that is?
I mean, it's just getting more traction right now. And in order to create a good short video, you still need a decent amount of time. And it's either, I create a long video that will still get like 100K views, depending on the channel. Maybe it's 50K, maybe it's 30K, maybe it's 200K. Or I focus a little bit more energy on creating a short video and it gets to 10 million views. Because like the view potential, I think when the algorithm favors short videos, you need to double down on them. I could always go back to posting 4 long videos a month, but now I'm going to do maybe 2, but more shorts.
Do you think that will lead to like less revenue for your channel and like, and also like, what do you think the relationship you're creating with your subscribers is in short form videos? Because something that like I think about is like the relationship with a long form video is probably a little more intimate.
Definitely.
Right?
And they're still going to be there. It's just going to be a little bit less of them. But I think about like short content is top of the funnel. Level 1, they know your face. Level number 2, they watch your stories. They watch your long videos. They leave their email. And like level number 3, they're your customers. And so because there is so much happening at this level 1 right now, why not focus there? And, getting recognized by other creators, getting more opportunities, getting more yeses from brand deals that I want to work with. Brands that I want to work with. So I would just, and yes, relationship building is important, but it's also important that you don't miss this window of opportunity.
Yeah. And like shorts, there's just such a massive window. So if you had to give advice to like new creators coming on the scene, who are trying to make something sustainable from being a creator, what advice do you think you would give like new creators now?
Create shorts. This would be like number 1 advice. Don't miss this. But also think about like, how do you get your subscribers to the second level? Is it by creating a Discord channel? Is it by sending a Substack email? Is it by directing them to your Instagram and, being exciting in stories? Because building that connection is super important. Because what happens if you only focus on shorts, people know your face, but they don't even know your name. They're like, oh, I've seen you somewhere. That's it. You need to be more specific about how you're going to form this community.